Hey everybody, my name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and I just wanted to pose a question. Is the economy mechanic or organic? Because what happens is that you oftentimes have people debate over economic phenomena and economic things, and they don't get anywhere, mainly because they're working under different assumptions. And if you completely have a different view on just how the world works, then you're not going to agree on what certain trends and data means. So oftentimes you just got to take a step back and see, what are our assumptions? Now, there are those, and I would usually lump those in sort of the Keynesian framework, as those who look at the economy from a more mechanic perspective. Now, when something is mechanical, what happens is that certain parts kind of always work the same way, and basically if they don't work the way you expect them to work, then you have to fix them. Okay, so think of it like a machine that's low on fuel. How do you fix it? You put more fuel. If there's a piece of the machine that's broken, you replace it. So the idea is that this economy is something that, and the machines don't just magically happen, machines have to be designed. So basically, you need someone to design the machine. So when you take that mechanical perspective, you believe you need engineers who can design the machine, and then you look at everything as sort of processes that sort of always work the same, parts that are sort of purely constant. So basically, for example, how a lot of times when you hear people say we need to stimulate demand. So basically, anytime there's, and this is a generalization, in all reality, economic debates are a lot more nuanced than this, but this kind of gets at a point that the answer is to boost aggregate demand, whether it be by monetary easing or by stimulating consumption through stimulative spending. But the idea is that this idea of consumption, this general idea of consumption, is sort of the fuel of the economy. And when the economy is low on it, you need to inject it with fuel. Okay, so in that case, you need designers to help improve the system so the system works better. Now, I take more of an organic approach, and I do think sort of the people who adhere to things like the Austrian School of Economics take more of an organic approach, where the economy is more like an ecosystem. Okay, so basically all the different parts are independent in the sense that the rabbits are not thinking about the foxes and etc. But they do, over time, kind of become the ecosystem becomes works because all these different parts figured out how to work best together. Not overnight, not because someone designed it. No one sat there and said, okay, the foxes need to eat these rabbits, and because they're eating the rabbits, they're going to keep the population under control. It just kind of magically happens that way out of sort of the interplay of different factors, because everyone's trying to optimize for themselves. The foxes are trying to, feed themselves. The rabbits are trying to protect themselves and reproduce and find the place where they're safer. And the weather is what it is, so it facilitates certain animals living there. So what happens is that the ecosystem sort of work towards a balance. And then when you introduce new things to it, it throws it off balance. That's the whole idea of creative destruction. So a lot of times, for example, when people introduce certain species of animals, such as certain lizards, certain snails, certain fish, into ecosystems that weren't used to them, what happens is that the whole equilibrium of the ecosystem changed. Because basically a new normal had to be discovered, and it takes time to discover that new normal. And it can be very disruptive. So that's sort of, ecosystems naturally work towards equilibrium. So basically the animals, the current mix of animals kind of works to how it balances itself out. And when you introduce a new animal to it, it has to re-engineer itself, which may mean the extinction of certain animals. The economy is very similar to this. The economy is constantly trying to figure out how to best balance out all the stuff that it currently has. Every business owner is trying to figure out what's the best in their interest. But in the end, all these pieces figure out how to balance each other out. But when a new technology, new processes, new innovations get introduced to the economy, the whole thing kind of has to re-engineer itself, which may result in the extinction of some industries, some businesses, etc. So in a sense where the market, the economy, is an organism that's constantly learning. When a business owner starts a business and succeeds, we now know what works. And when a business owner starts something and it fails, now we know what doesn't work. And this informs the decisions of future business owners who will adopt things that work, adopt things that don't work, or some people will adopt things that didn't work in the first place and may find out that in a different context they do work. But every attempt creates a little bit of knowledge for better decision making going forward, and allows us to get closer to figuring out what the right mix and the right balance of all that stuff is. to get to that equilibrium before the next innovation, the next technology throws it all into whack for us to discover it all over again. So in that case, if you believe that the economy is organic, then there's a learning process. And if you interfere with that, with imagine when humans move animals into ecosystems that they were sort of not designed to be in, you can create all sorts of really, really disruptive adjustments that may not necessarily be in the best interest of those in the existing ecosystem. So in the sense that if a government tries to design or engineer the economy, that it can disrupt that learning process and disrupt how we rebalance ourselves in a way that's positive for all of us, because it's working against the individual part's interest who are discovering themselves. So these are sort of two perspectives on economics, and it's as much philosophical as it is based in data, because your philosophy, your perspective on this can influence how you interpret the data and how you read the data. Okay, someone who's mechanical will just say, hey, there's low consumption, so we need more consumption. While someone who's organic will sit there and may look at the data and be like, but if there's low consumption, who's not consuming less? What are they not consuming? Where are they not consuming? Is there something? Are there some sort of change in that ecosystem? Some sort of new innovation, new change in where these trends are happening? They may not necessarily be a bad or a good thing, and should we necessarily interfere with that change? So you look a little bit deeper into the data. Instead of just looking at everything in big aggregates and treating it like a bunch of interdependent systems in a big machine. So it just depends on what your philosophy is, and it'll impact the way you look at the world. And in the comments, please just leave your thoughts. My name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. Have a great day and enjoy.